The first series is called Avanti, and you'll enjoy the model numbers. They're AV1, AV2, AV3, and so on. And this guitar is based on the traditional solid body, single cutaway, set neck, in this case, arch top. And this guitar, which was, as I said earlier, developed in the early 50s, if you think about it, came after the era of all the big jazz bands, and the guitars used then were single cutaway, so it sort of reflects that style. Obviously, just a very traditional straight-ahead guitar, and what defines this from a lot of other instruments in the industry that have bolt-on necks is it's a little more elaborate instrument. There's a little more attention to detail in the sense that they're bound, the neck is glued in, there's an arch top, the pickup wiring and so on is run through channels rather than a pickguard that covers the whole front of the guitar. Okay, let's take a look at the headstock and talk about the feature benefit aspect of this. Obviously, you want a great looking headstock, and we hope we've achieved that, but there's a lot of performance benefit to be gained as well. Our headstocks are all cocked back, and what that does is it increases the string angle over the nut. And the benefit in that is that that extra angle creates more bearing pressure, string bearing pressure at the nut, which results in a more powerful attack. In other words, the string is hotter, the sound is hotter when you hit the string, and longer sustain. And the reason for that is the energy on the string doesn't cross over that nut as easily and get absorbed into the headstock. The smaller size of the headstock also plays a big role because anything on the guitar that resonates or moves or vibrates is pulling that energy from the string. So if you have a smaller headstock with less resonant area, you're going to have more energy stay on the string, you're going to have a hotter string. You'll notice also the headstock is tapered in, so the machine heads are arrayed, they get closer as you go towards the top, and what that means is you get a straighter string pull through the nut. The string is not as likely to get bound up in the nut, and when you're tuning, you know, you'll be tuning and then suddenly it'll pop and go up. So it makes your tuning very nice and smooth. The other thing that happens with the smaller headstock too is that you wind up having a shorter string length past the nut. And that shorter string length also gives you more bearing pressure at the nut. And if you think about the same principle applies to a bridge. If you look at a jazz guitar with a trapeze tailpiece where the string path or length between the bridge and the tailpiece is quite long, that guitar has a very mellow, warm sound. When you go to a stop piece like this guitar, which shortens that, you get better performance. If you go to a string through the body, you have even more bearing pressure, and you again raise the performance level. So something as simple as a headstock can have a tremendous effect on the performance. And we essentially have one headstock that cuts across all the designs. You'll notice, if you have a good eye, that there's a little subtle difference in some of them. Next, take a look at this guitar, the body of it. These guitars tend to be loved because they really, the heavy metal guys won't appreciate this, I guess, this terminology, but they really are elegant looking guitars, and it's a great format. What sort of frustrates me is people rarely talk about the performance benefit of it. And as we were discussing earlier, string performance is predicated on keeping energy on the string and having a very strong response. Well, when you build a guitar with an arch top, what you do is you create more mass or more rigidity or stiffness in the body, which means that it's less likely to take energy off the string and thereby weakening the response in terms of attack and sustain. We also, if you take a look at our bridge, you'll notice that instead of just a thin threaded shaft going into the body, there is a flange at the bottom. This adds a stability to it, to the performance of the guitar as well. There's very little vibration or shake in that bridge. That improves performance. And this particular guitar has a glued-in neck, which also creates a more rigid situation, which prevents vibration. So as beautiful as this guitar is, it also has a tremendous response in terms of attack, sustain. The tone is just magnificent. We also, on these guitars are using Duncan design pickups, and for those of you who have been in the industry for a while, that is sort of the benchmark in terms of pickup manufacturers. All of the electronics now, or the potentiometers, the controls, are 500K pots, and which makes, on the volume, for example, they're set up so that you have a very even taper till the very end, and then the last little bit you have a big jump, which is nice if you're playing rhythm and then you suddenly need some more power for lead. It's just a small jump. The tone pots are a very even taper. So that's the Avanti. This is what I would call the core model, very traditional looking with a quilt maple top, cream rings, crown inlays, bound fingerboard. Also has Grover machine heads. I might as well address that a little bit too. All of our guitars have wonderful machines. Most of them have a Grover, and that die-cast sealed machine head, which is what it's called, provides a very high ratio gear, which means like a 13-to-1 ratio gear means that for 13 turns of the button, you get 1 turn of the stem, so you get a very fine, accurate tuning, and really a quite professional guitar. So that's the core model. Next, I'm going to show you within this same series a couple of other guitars that are also what I called earlier sub-markets. I should mention to you the guitar we just looked at, the model number on that was an AV6. This is an AV5, and it's a variation on the guitar we just looked at. It's a flat top instead of an arch, and it's striped mahogany. It's a real traditional kind of a